Hello. Thank you, Alder, for the sub. I'm gonna go ahead and do the wheel spin before getting into anything. Let's see. I have to yip. Okay. I'm gonna have to somehow do that softly, and that's gonna be a challenge. I'm not gonna lie. Yep. 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 It's so hard to do that softly. That was such a terrible one to spin for an ASMR day. But I tried. It was terrible, but I tried. Again, thank you for the sub, and congrats on hitting your 38-month streak. So today we are going to be doing the Warriors book again, the Into the Wild, and we're going to be doing chapter 11 through 15. In the previous chapter, we learned that the clan, the deputy had died and they had to pick a new one. And Rusty, aka Firepaw, had to go ahead and get a mentor. And that's pretty much what happened, but we also got a medical cat from the Shadow Clan, and there's something mysterious going on there. And one of the other clans got taken over by the Shadow Clan, it seems. And there's quite a bit to do there, lore-wise. And I'm sure we'll get into what's happening once we get into the next 5 chapters. I do want to remind you that fish is active, so if you want to fish, you can fish. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into chapter 11. Because we're going to go through 11 through 15. That is going to be about 55-ish pages, give or take. And I drank a little bit of coffee, so my throat's gurgling a little bit. So don't mind that. Also, there is a poll in the Discord for like how much you're enjoying the series so far. So I do suggest, if you do enjoy it, to go say that you enjoy it. Give it a higher number. It's a poll of 1 through 10. Chapter 11. Firepaw returned with a chaffinch gripped firmly between his teeth. He dropped it in front of Tigerclaw, who stood waiting in the hollow. "You're the first one back," meowed the warrior. "Yeah, but I've got loads more prey to fetch," Firepaw mewed quickly. "I buried it back." "I know exactly what you did," Tigerclaw growled. "I've been watching you." A swish of bushes announced Greypaw's return. He is carrying a small squirrel in his mouth, which he dropped beside Firepaw's chaffinch. "Yuck," he spat. "Squirrels are too furry. I'll be picking hairs out of my teeth all evening." Tigerclaw paid no attention to Greypaw's grumbling. "Ravenpaw's late," he observed. "We'll give him a bit longer than to return to camp." "But what if he's been bitten by an adder?" Firepaw protested. "Then it's his own fault." "Oh, thanks for the maid headpiece," Tigerclaw replied coldly. "There's no room for fools in ThunderClan." They waited in silence. Greypaw and Firepaw exchanged glances, worried about Ravenpaw. Tigerclaw sat motionless, apparently lost in his own thoughts. Firepaw was the first to scent Ravenpaw's arrival. He jumped to his paws as the black cat leaped into the clearing, looking unusually pleased with himself. Dangling from his mouth was the long, diamond-patterned body of an adder. "Ravenpaw, are you okay?" Firepaw called. "Hey," meowed Greypaw, rushing forward to admire Ravenpaw's catch. "Did that bite you?" "I was too quick for it," Ravenpaw purred loudly. Then he caught Tigerclaw's eye and fell silent. Tigerclaw fixed all 3 excited apprentices with a cold stare. "Come on," he said shortly. "Let's collect the rest of your prey and get back to camp." Firepaw, Greypaw, and Ravenpaw entered the camp, strolling behind Tigerclaw. Their impressive day's catch hung from their mouths. Although Ravenpaw kept tripping over his dead snake, as they emerged from the gorse into the camp, a group of young kids scrambled out of the nursery to watch them pass. "Look," Ravenpaw heard one of them say. "Apprentices just back from hunting." He recognized the little tabby Yellowfang had hissed at the day before. Sitting next to him was a fluffy gray kit, no more than 2 moons old. A tiny black kit and a small tortoiseshell stood beside them. "Isn't that the kitty pet, Firepaw?" squeaked the gray kit. "Yeah, look at his orange fur," mewed the black one. "They say he's a good hunter. the tortoiseshell added. He looks a bit like Lionheart. Do you suppose he's as good as him? I can't wait to start my training, mewed the tabby. I'm going to be the best ThunderClan has ever seen. Firepaw lifted his chin, feeling proud at the kid's admiring comments. He followed his two friends into the center of the clearing. An adder, Greypaw mewed again, as the apprentices dropped their catch for the other cats to share. What shall I do with it? Asked Ravenpaw, sniffing the snake's long body as it lay beside the heap. Can you eat adders? Asked Greypaw. Trust you to think your stomach. Firepaw joked, butting Greypaw with his head. Well, I wouldn't want to eat it, murmured Ravenpaw. Hi, Husky, welcome in. I mean, my mouth tastes pretty foul after carrying it back. Let's put it on a tree stump then, suggested Greypaw, so that Dustpaw and Sandpaw can see it when they get back. Thank you for the lurk as well. They each carried a piece of their fresh kill, and the adder back to their den. Greypaw carefully placed the adder on the stump, arranging the snake so it could be fully seen from all sides. Then they ate. When they had finished, they sat close together to groom one another and talk. I wonder who Bluestar will choose to go to the gathering, Firepaw meowed. It'll be a full moon tomorrow. Sandpaw and Dustpaw have been twice already, replied Greypaw. Perhaps Bluestar will choose one of us this time, mewed Firepaw. After all, we've been training for almost 3 moons now. Thank you for lurking, Alter. I hope you have fun with all your coding. But Sandpaw and Dustpaw are still the eldest apprentices, Ravenpaw pointed out. Firepaw nodded, and this gathering will be an important one. It'll be the first time the clans have met since WindClan disappeared. No cat knows what ShadowClan is going to say about it. Tigerclaw's low meow interrupted them. You're right, youngster. Warrior had strolled up to them unnoticed. By the way, Firepaw, he added smoothly, Bluestar wants to see you. Firepaw looked up startled. Why would Bluestar want to see him? Now if you can spare the time, Tigerclaw meowed. Firepaw jumped up immediately and bounded off across the clearing towards Bluestar's den. Bluestar was sitting outside, her tail flicking restlessly back and forth. When she saw Firepaw, she stood up and looked steadily down at him. Tigerclaw has told me he saw you talking with a cat from the Two-Leg place today, she meowed quietly. But, Firepaw began, he said that you began by fighting with this cat, but ended up sharing tongues with it. That's true, Firepaw admitted, feeling his fur prickle defensively. But he was an old friend. We grew up together. He paused and swallowed. When I was a kitty pet. Bluestar looked at him for a long moment. Do you miss your old life, Firepaw? She asked. Think carefully now. No. How can Bluestar think that? Firepaw wondered. His head was spinning. What was Bluestar trying to make him say? Do you wish to leave the clan? Of course not. Firepaw was shocked by her question. Bluestar didn't seem to hear the passion in his answer. She shook her head, looking suddenly old and tired. I won't judge you if you want to leave us, Firepaw. Perhaps I expected too much of you. Perhaps my judgment has been clouded by the clan's need for new warriors. Panic swept through Firepaw as the thought of leaving the clan forever. But my place is here. This is my home, he protested. I need more than that, Firepaw. I need to be able to trust in your loyalty to the ThunderClan. Especially now that it looks like ShadowClan is planning an attack. We don't have room for anyone who isn't sure whether their heart lies in the past or the present. Firepot took a deep breath and chose his next words carefully. When I saw Smudge today, that's the house cat Tiger Claw saw me talking with. I saw what life had been like if I had stayed with the two legs. I felt happy that I had not stayed. I was proud I left. He held Bluestar's gaze without flinching. Meeting Smudge made me certain that I made the right decision. I could never have been satisfied with the soft life of a kitty pet. Bluestar looked closely at him for a moment, her eyes narrow. Then she nodded. "Very well," she said. "I believe you." Firepot dipped his head respectfully and let out a silent sigh of relief. "I spoke to Yellowfang earlier," meowed Bluestar in a lighter tone. "She thinks a lot of you. She's a wise old she-cat, you know. And I suspect she wasn't always bad-tempered. Indeed, I think that I could grow to like her." Firepot felt an unexpected glow of pleasure at these words. Maybe in caring for Yellowfang, his admiration for her had grown into affection. Despite the she-cat's ill temper, whatever the reason, he was glad Bluestar liked her too. So Yellowfang is the medicine cat from the Shadow Clan that had supposedly gone solo and had been taken in by the Thunder Clan, and as the person that had shared food with that medicine cat, Rusty, aka Firepot, was made to take care of him, and it was a very, very matted cat at the start, and the cat had slowly opened up. "Hi Sid, welcome in, Yubaka. But there is something about her that I don't trust." Bluestar went on quietly. "She will stay with the Thunder Clan for now, but remain as a prisoner. The queens will care for her. You must concentrate on your training." Firepot nodded and waited to be dismissed. But Bluestar hadn't finished. "Firepot, although you showed bad judgment today in talking to a house cat, Tiger Claw was impressed by your hunting skills. In fact, he reported that you all did well. I am pleased with your progress. You will come to the gathering, all three of you." Firepot could hardly stand still. His body tingled with excitement. The gathering? What about Sandpaw and Dustpaw, he mewed. "They'll remain behind and guard the camp," replied Bluestar. "Now you may go." She flicked her long tail to show he was dismissed, and returned to her grooming. Graypaw and Ravenpaw looked stunned to see Firepot bounding happily towards them. They had been waiting nervously for him beside the tree stump. Firepaw sat down and looked at his friends. "Well," Graypaw demanded, "what did she say?" "Tiger Claw told us you'd been sharing tongues with a kitty pet this morning," burst out Ravenpaw. "Are you in trouble?" "No." Although Bluestar wasn't pleased, Firepaw admitted ruefully. "She thought I might want to leave ThunderClan." "You don't, do you?" asked Ravenpaw. Okay, so the sharing of tongues between the cats is a cleaning session, and they talk about their day. That was actually stated in the last 5 chapters from the previous stream. But sharing tongues is essentially a form of affection or just a normal chatting thing. It's like a daily ritual for them in the Thunder Clan. Yeah. So he was caught giving affection to a kitty pet from his past, which is aka a house cat. Of course he doesn't, mewed Graypaw. Firepaw gave his friend an affectionate swipe. "Yeah, you'd hate that. You need me to catch mice for you." all you can catch these days are hairy old squirrels. Graypaw dodged out of the way of Firepaw's blow and reared up on his back legs to retaliate. "You never guess what else," she said, Firepaw went on. He was too excited to waste time play fighting. Graypaw immediately dropped back onto all four paws. "What?" he asked. "We're going to the gathering." Graypaw let out a yell of delight and bounded up the tree stump. One of his back paws knocked the adder flying. It hit Ravenpaw in the head and wrapped itself around his neck. Ravenpaw spat with alarm and surprise, and then he turned to Graypaw. "Watch it," he hissed crossly. He shook the adder onto the ground. "Scared it might try to bite you?" Firepaw teased. He crouched down, hissing, and sidled up to Ravenpaw. Ravenpaw twitched his whiskers and retorted, "Some snake you to make." He leaped on Firepaw and rolled him easily onto his back. Graypaw reached down from the tree stump and gave Ravenpaw's tail a tug. As Ravenpaw turned to thump Graypaw with his soft forepaw, Firepaw jumped to his feet and leaped onto them both, sending Graypaw flying from the stump. All three cats tumbled into the dirt and tussled on the ground. Finally, they fell apart and settled themselves, panting beside the tree stump. They're having a cat fight, a playful one. "Are Sandpaw and Dustpaw coming too?" puffed Graypaw. "Nope," Firepaw replied, unable to disguise the note of triumph in his voice. "They have to stay behind and guard the camp." "Oh, let me tell them," begged Graypaw. "I can't wait to see the looks on their faces." "Me neither," Firepaw agreed. "I can't believe we're going instead of them, especially after Tigerpaw saw me with Smudge today." "That was just bad luck," answered Graypaw. "We all caught a load of prey in the assessment. That must be what decided it." "I wonder what the gathering will be like," viewed Ravenpaw. "It'll be fantastic," Graypaw replied confidently. "I bet all the great warriors will be there. Clawface, Stonefur." But Firepaw wasn't listening anymore. Instead, he found himself thinking about Tigerclaw and Smudge. Graypaw was right. It was bad luck that the Great Warrior had been observing him when he had met his old friend. Why couldn't he have been watching Graypaw or Ravenpaw instead? In fact, it was bad luck that Tigerclaw had sent him so near the two-leg place at all. Sounds like ulterior motives to me. Suddenly, a dark thought entered Firepaw's mind. What had Tigerclaw sent him so near his old haunts? Had he wanted to test him? Could it be the great dark warrior didn't trust his loyalty to the ThunderClan? And that's the end of Chapter 11. Chapter 12 is next. Firepaw peered over the brow of a bush-covered slope. Graypaw and Ravenpaw crouched beside him. Next to them, a group of ThunderClan elders, queens, and warriors waited in the undergrowth for Bluestar to give the signal. Firepaw had not been to this place since his first journey with Lionheart and Tigerclaw. The steep-sided glade looked different now. The rich greenness of the woods had been bleached away by the cold light of the full moon, and the leaves on the trees glowed silver. At the bottom stood the large oaks that marked where the corner of each clan's territory touched the other three. The air was thick with the warm scents of cats from the other clans. Firepaw could see them quite clearly in the moonlight, moving about below in the grassy clearing that lay between the four oaks. In the center of the clearing, A large, jagged rock rose from the forest floor like a broken tooth. Look at all those cats down there, hissed Ravenpaw under his breath. There's Crooked Star, Greypaw hissed back, Rivet Clan's leader. Where? Firepaw mewed, nudging Greypaw impatiently. That light-colored tabby beside the great rock. Firepaw followed Greypaw's nod and saw a huge Tom, even bigger than Lionheart. Sitting at the center of the clearing, his striped coat shone pale in the moonlight. Even from this distance, his old face showed signs of a harsh life, and his mouth looked twisted, as if it had been broken and had healed badly. Hey, mewed Greypaw. Did you see Sandpaw spit when I told her I hoped she had a nice evening at home? You bet, Firepaw purred. Ravenpaw interrupted them with a muffled growl. Look, there's Broken Star, Shadow Clan's leader, he hissed. Firepaw looked down at the dark brown tabby. His fur was unusually long and his face was broad and flattened. There's going to be ads in 3 minutes, so if you haven't already, make sure to turn down your volume so you don't get spooked. And when the ad starts, I'll probably take a quick break. There was a stillness in the way he sat and stared around him that made Firepaw's fur prickle uncomfortably. It looks pretty nasty, Firepaw muttered. Yeah, agreed Greypaw. He's certainly got a reputation among all the clans for not suffering fools gladly. And he's not been a leader that long. 4 moons ever since his father, Ragged Star, died. What does the leader of Wind Clan look like? Firepaw asked. Tall Star? I've never seen him, but I know he's black and white with a very long tail, answered Greypaw. Can you see him now? Asked Ravenpaw. Greypaw peered down, searching the crowd of cats below. Nope. Can you scent any Wind Clan cats? Firepaw asked. Greypaw shook his head. No. Lionheart's meow sounded softly beside them. The Wind Clan cats may just be late. But what if they don't turn up at all? Mewed Greypaw. Hush. We must all be patient. These are difficult times. Now keep quiet. Blue Star will give the signal to move soon. Lionheart meowed quietly. As he spoke, Blue Star stood and, holding her tail high, flicked it from one side to the other. Firepaw's heart missed a beat as the ThunderClan cats rose as one and bounded through the bushes, down towards the meeting place. He raced alongside them, feeling the wind rush in his ears and his paws tingle with anticipation. The ThunderClan cats paused instinctively on the edge of the clearing, outside the boundary of the oaks. Blue Star sniffed the air, then she nodded and the troop moved forward into the clearing. Firepaw felt thrilled. The other cats looked even more impressive close up, milling about the great rock. A large white warrior strode past. Firepaw and Ravenpaw looked at him in awe. Look at his paws, Ravenpaw muttered. Firepaw looked down and realized the huge paws of this great Tom were jet black. Alright, so the ads have started, so I'm going to take a quick break, but I will be right back. I'm back. Let me get back to the spot where I was at. Firepaw looked down and realized the huge paws of the Great Tom were jet black. It must be Blackfoot, mewed Greypaw, Shadow Clan's new deputy. Blackfoot stalked over to Brokenstar and sat down beside him. The Shadow Clan leader acknowledged him with a twitch of one ear, but said nothing. When does the meeting begin? Ravenpaw asked Whitestorm. Be patient, Ravenpaw, he answered. The sky is clear tonight, so we have plenty of time. Lionheart leaned over and added, We warriors like to spend a little time boasting about our victories, while the elders swap tales about the ancient days before the Two Lakes came here. All three apprentices looked up at him and saw his whiskers twitch mischievously. Dappletail, One Eye and Small Ear, headed straight off towards a group of elderly cats who were settling themselves below one of the oak trees. Whitestorm and Lionheart strolled over to another pair of warriors whom Firepaw did not know. He sniffed the air and recognized their scent as RiverClan. Bluestar's voice sounded behind the three apprentices. Don't waste any of your time tonight, she warned. This is a good opportunity to meet your enemies. Listen to them, remember what they look like, and how they behave. There is a great deal to be learned from these meetings. And say little, warned Tigerclaw. Don't give anything away that might be used against us once the full moon has waned. Don't worry, we won't, Firepaw promised hastily, looking into Tigerclaw's eyes. The feeling that Tigerclaw didn't trust his loyalty lingered with him still. The two warriors nodded and moved on, and the apprentices were left alone. They looked at each other. What do we do now? Firepaw asked. What they said, replied Ravenpaw. Listen. And don't say too much, Greypaw added. Firepaw nodded gravely. I'm going to see where Tigerclaw went, he mewed. Well, I'm going to find Lionheart, mewed Greypaw. You coming, Ravenpaw? No thanks, Ravenpaw replied. I'm going to find some of the other apprentices. Okay, we'll meet up later, mewed Firepaw, and he trotted in the direction of Tigerclaw had taken. He scented Tigerclaw easily and found him sitting at the center of a group of huge warriors. Behind the great rock, Tigerclaw was speaking. It was a tale Firepaw had heard many times at camp. Tigerclaw was describing his recent battle against the RiverClan hunting party. I wrestled like a Lion-Clan cat. 3 warriors tried to hold me, but I threw them off. I fought them until 2 lay knocked out and the other had run off into the forest like a kit crying for its mother. This time, Tigerclaw didn't mention killing Oakheart in vengeance for Redtail's death. Perhaps it's so he doesn't offend the RiverClan warriors, Firepaw decided. Firepaw listened politely to the end of the story, but a familiar scent was distracting him. As soon as Tigerclaw had finished speaking, Firepaw turned and crept away towards the sweet smell, which was coming from a group of cats nearby. He found Greypaw sitting among these cats, but that was not the scent he had been following. Sitting opposite Greypaw, between 2 RiverClan Toms, was Spotted Leaf. Firepaw glanced at her shyly and settled himself beside his friend. Still no scent of WindClan, he mewed to Greypaw. The meeting hasn't begun yet. They may still come, replied his friend. Look, there's Running Nose. He's the new ShadowClan medicine cat, apparently. He nodded toward a small gray and white cat at the center of the group. I can see why they call him Running Nose, Firepaw remarked. Medicine Cat's nose was as wet as the tip and encrusted around the edges. "Yep," replied Graypaw with a scornful growl. "I can't see why they appointed him when he can't even cure his own cold." Running Nose was telling the cats about an herb that medicine cats had used in the old days to cure kitten cough. Since the two legs came and filled this place with hard earth and strange flowers, he complained in a high-pitched yowl. "The herb has disappeared, and the kittens die needlessly in cold weather." The cats gathered around him yelled their disapproval. "It never would have happened in the time of the great clan cats," growled the Black River Clan Queen. "Indeed," mewed a silver tabby, "the great cats would have killed any two legs that dared enter their territory. If Tiger Clan roamed this forest still, two legs would not have built this far into our land." Then Firepaw heard Spotted Leaf's quiet mew. "If Tiger Clan still roamed these forests, we would hardly have made our territory here either." "What's Tiger Clan?" mewed a small voice beside them. Firepaw noticed a little tabby apprentice from one of the other clans sitting beside him. "Tiger Clan is one of the great cat clans that used to roam the forest." Graypaw explained quietly. "Tiger Clan cats are of the night, big as horses, with jet black stripes. Then there is Lion Clan. They're—" Graypaw hesitated, frowning as he tried to remember. "Oh, I've heard of them," mewed the tabby. "They're as big as the Tiger Clan cats, with yellow fur and golden manes like the rays of the sun." "Hello, welcome in. And also, thanks for joining us. I'm Abisuki, and we are currently doing a book reading for Warriors Into the Wild from Chapter 11 to Chapter 15. Graypaw nodded, and then there is the other one, Spotty Clan or something like that. "I suspect you're thinking of Leopard Clan," young Graypaw meowed a voice from behind them. "Lionheart!" Graypaw greeted his mentor with an affectionate touch of his nose. Lionheart shook his head in mock despair. "Don't you youngsters know your history? Leopard Clan are the swiftest cats, huge and golden, spotted with black paw prints. You can thank Leopard Clan for the speed and hunting skills you now possess." "Thank them? Why?" asked the tabby. Lionheart gazed down at the little apprentice and answered, "There is a trace of all great cats in every cat today. We would not be night hunters without our Tiger Clan ancestors, and our love of the sun's warmth comes from the Lion Clan." He paused. "You are a Shadow Clan apprentice, aren't you? How many moons are you?" The tabby stared awkwardly down at the ground. 6 moons, he stammered, not meeting Lionheart's gaze. "Rather small for 6 moons, Lionheart murmured. His tone was gentle, but his gaze was searching and serious. "A snow fox? This So this is actually my female fox model. So technically my male model is a red fox, and this would be, I guess you could say, snow. It's, it's close enough. I'll just say that. "My mother was small too," answered the tabby nervously. He bowed his head and backed away, disappearing into the crowd of cats with a twitch of his light brown tail. Lionheart turned to Firepaw and Graypaw. Well, he might be small, but at least he was curious. If only you two showed as much interest in the stories your elders tell. Oh, you want to see that? Hang on a second. That's gonna take a second. and you're probably gonna be spooked.
It's actually this one. It's a kitsune. So this here is actually what it is. You probably weren't expecting that. Just having a kitsune. Well, if you're gonna tell me you're human the whole time, I'll be spooked, bruh. I mean, it's a kitsune. Humanoid form. This is the male model.
That might have thrown you off a little bit. Alright, where was I? I think I just turned the page, right? Yes, I did, okay. Sorry, Lionheart. Firepaw and Greypaw meet, exchanging doubtful glances. Going around random streams to spread happiness by complimenting things like, the model is adorable and makes you smile. Thank you. That means a lot. I mean, I did the art for it and I also rigged it, so that's very nice of you to say. It means I did a good job. Alright, thank you. Thank you for dropping by. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. How does that work? Do we switch between forum or just different stream? I would switch whenever I feel like it, but I have been using this forum for the ASMR. So a little bit about this Warriors ASMR is that it originally was a goal when I was doing my donathon. I had reached the goal for this one specifically of the Warrior ASMR book reading. And I decided to use the female fox model in voice. But I normally use the other one when I'm streaming majority of the time, unless I feel like using this one. I am gender fluid, so it kind of makes sense. Orin from BG3AO. Sorry, Lionheart. Firepaw and Greypaw meet, exchanging doubtful glances. Lionheart grunted good-naturedly. Oh, go away, the pair of you. Next time, I hope Bluestar decides to bring apprentices who appreciate what they hear. And with a half-hearted growl, he chased them away from the group. Come on, purred Greypaw as they moved away. Let's see what Ravenpaw's gotten off to. Ravenpaw was in the middle of a group of apprentices who were clamoring for him to tell them about the battle with the River Clan. Go on, Ravenpaw. Tell us what happened, called a pretty black and white she-cat. Ravenpaw shyly shuffled his paws and shook his head. Oh, that's fine. So what that means is that I don't really care if you call me male or female, and sometimes I feel like one or the other. It's very complicated to explain because it could be like a mix of things depending on the person. Hi, Husky! You're not gonna bat me, I'm gonna yeet you into a volcano. Shut the fuck up. Come on, Ravenpaw, insisted another. Ravenpaw looked around and saw Firepaw and Greypaw at the edge of the crowd. Firepaw nodded encouragingly. Ravenpaw flicked his tail in acknowledgement and began his story. You fucking husky. I'm gonna bap you back, I swear. He stumbled a bit at first, but as he continued, the tremor disappeared from his voice and his audience leaned in, their eyes growing wider. It's not bull if it's gonna happen. Don't make me pull you into gaming tomorrow. I will. Fur was flying everywhere. Blood spattered the leaves of bramble bushes, bright red against green. I just fought off a huge warrior and sent him squealing into the bushes when the ground shook, and I heard a warrior scream. It was Oakheart. Redtail raced past me, his mouth dripping blood and his fur torn. Oakheart is dead, he yelled, and he rushed off to help Tigerclaw as he fought another warrior. Yes, I'm sure about that, Husky. Who would have thought Ravenpaw was such a good storyteller? Greypaw murmured to Firepaw, sounding impressed. But Firepaw was thinking of something else. What was it Ravenpaw had said? That Redtail had killed Oakheart? For according to Tigerclaw, Oakheart had killed Redtail, and he, Tigerclaw, had killed Oakheart in revenge. Thank you for the lurk, Husky. If Redtail killed Oakheart, who killed Redtail? Firepaw hissed to Greypaw. If who did what? Greypaw echoed absent-mindedly. He was only half listening to Firepaw. Firepaw shook his head, declared. Ravenpaw must have been mistaken, he thought. He must have meant Tigerclaw. Ravenpaw was coming to an end of his story. Finally, Redtail dragged the wailing cat off Tigerclaw by his tail and, with the strength of the whole of Tiger Clan, flung him into the bushes. A moving shadow caught Firepaw's eye. He glanced around and saw Tigerclaw standing a short distance away. The warrior was watching Ravenpaw with an iron stare. Unaware of his mentor's presence, Ravenpaw continued to answer question after question from his enthusiastic audience. What were Oakheart's dying words? Is it true that Oakheart had never lost a battle before? Ravenpaw replied promptly, with his voice high and clear and his eyes shining. But when Ravenpaw glanced back at Tigerclaw, he saw a look of horror and then fury creep over the warrior's face. Clearly, Tigerclaw wasn't enjoying Ravenpaw's story at all. Firepaw was just about to say something to Greypaw when a loud yowl signaled to all cats for quiet. Firepaw couldn't help feeling relieved as Ravenpaw fell silent at last, and Tigerclaw turned away. Firepaw looked up to see where the yell had come from. 3 cats sat silhouetted against the moonlit sky, and on top of the great rock. There were Blue Star, Broken Star, and Crooked Star. The clan leaders were about to begin the meeting, but where was the Wind Clan leader? Surely they won't start the meeting without Tall Star. Firepaw hissed under his breath. I don't know, Greypaw muttered back. Haven't you noticed? There isn't a single Wind Clan cat here, whispered a River Clan apprentice on the other side of Firepaw. Firepaw guessed that similar conversations were going on all around him. As the other cats were gathered beneath the great rock, an unsettled murmuring rumbled in their throats. We can't start yet, yelled one voice above the noise. Where are the Wind Clan representatives? We must wait until all the clans are present. On top of the rock, Blue Star stepped forward. Her gray fur glowed almost white in the moonlight. Cats of all clans, welcome, she meowed in a clear voice. It is true that WindClan is not present, but Broken Star wishes to speak anyway. Broken Star padded noiselessly up to the stand beside Blue Star. He surveyed the crowd for a few moments. Thank you for the follow. His orange eyes burning, and he took a deep breath and began. Friends, I come to speak to you tonight about the needs of ShadowClan. But he was interrupted by raised, impatient voices from below. Where is Tall Star? Cried one. Where are the WindClan warriors? Yelled another. Broken Star stretched up to his full height and lashed his tail from side to side. As the leader of ShadowClan, it is a right for me to address you here, he growled in a voice full of menace. The crowd fell into an uneasy silence. All around him, Firepaw could smell the acrid tang of fear. Broken Star yelled again. We all know that the hard time of Leaf Bear and Late New Leaf have left us with little prey in our hunting grounds. But we also know that WindClan, RiverClan, and ThunderClan lost many kids in the freezing weather that came so late this season. ShadowClan did not lose kids. We are hardened to the cold north wind. Our kids are stronger than yours from the moment they are born. And we find ourselves with many mouths to feed and too little prey to feed them. The crowd, still silent, listened anxiously. The needs of ShadowClan are simple. In order to survive, we must increase our hunting territory. That is why I insist that you allow ShadowClan warriors to hunt in your territories. A shocked but muted growl rippled through the crowd. Share our hunting grounds? Called the outraged voice of Tiger Claw. It is unprecedented, cried a tortoiseshell queen from the RiverClan. Clans have never shared hunting rights. Should ShadowClan be punished because our kids thrive? Yelled Broken Star from the Great Rock. You want us to watch our young star? You must share what you have with us. Must, spat Small Ear furiously from the back of the crowd. Must, repeated Broken Star. WindClan failed to understand this. In the end, we were forced to drive them out of their territory. Snarls of outrage burst from the crowd, but Broken Star's caterwaul rang loud above them. And if we have to, we'll drive you all from your hunting grounds in order to feed our hungry kids. There was an instant silence. On the other side of the clearing, Firepaw heard a RiverClan apprentice start muttering something, but he quickly hushed by an elder. Satisfied that he had every cat's attention, Broken Star continued. Each year, the two lakes spoil more of our territory. At least one clan must remain strong. If all the clans are to survive, ShadowClan thrives while you all struggle. And there may come a time when you will need us to protect you. You doubt our strength? Hissed Tiger Claw. His pale eyes glared threateningly at the ShadowClan leader, and his powerful shoulders rippled with tension. I do not ask for your answer now, Broken Star ignored the warrior's challenge. You must each go away and consider my words. But bear this in mind. Would you prefer to share your prey or be driven out and left homeless, starving? Warriors, elders, and apprentices looked at one another in disbelief. In the anxious pause that followed, Cricket Star stepped forward. I have already agreed to allow ShadowClan some hunting rights in the river that runs through our territory. He meowed quietly, gazing down on his clan. Horror and humiliation rippled through the RiverClan cats at their leader's words. We were not consulted, cried a grizzled silver tabby. I feel that this is best for our clan. For all clans, Crooked Star explained, his voice heavy with resignation. There are plenty of fish in the river. It is better to share our prey than to spill blood fighting over it. Ad starts in 2.5 minutes. If you haven't already, make sure to lower your volume so you don't get spooked when the ads start or take a short break. Thank you. And what if ThunderClan, Small Ear croaked. Blue Star, have you too agreed to this outrageous demand? Blue Star unwaveringly met the old cat's gaze. I have made no agreement with Broken Star, except that I shall discuss his proposal with my clan after the gathering. Well, at least that's something, muttered Greypaw in Firepaw's ear. We'll show them we're not as soft as that yellow-bellied river clan. Broken Star spoke up again, his rasping voice sounding arrogant and strong after Crooked Star's surrender. I also bring news that is important to the safety of your kids. A ShadowClan cat has turned rogue and spurned the warrior code. We chased her out of our camp, but we do not know where she is now. She looks a mangy old creature, but she has a bite like TigerClan. Firepaw's fur bristled. Could Broken Star possibly be talking about Yellowfang? He pricked up his ears, curious to hear more. She is dangerous, I warn you. Do not offer shelter to her, and, Broken Star paused dramatically, until she is caught and killed. I urge you to keep a close eye on your kids. Firepaw knew from nervous growl that rumbled in the throats of the ThunderClan cats that they too had thought of Yellowfang. The bold she-cat had done nothing to endear herself to her reluctant hosts, and Firepaw guessed it wouldn't take much to drum up hatred against her. Even the words of a despised enemy like Broken Star would be enough. The ShadowClan warriors began to push their way out of the throng of cats. Broken Star leaped down from the rock, and his warriors immediately surrounded him and escorted him away from the 4 trees back into ShadowClan territory. The remaining ShadowClan cats followed quickly behind, including the undersized tabby Lionheart had questioned earlier. But among the other ShadowClan apprentices, the tabby no longer looked unusually small. They all looked tiny and undernourished, more like kits of the 3 or 4 moons that rather than full-fledged apprentices. See, that's exactly why I need to take a quick break, is so that my tongue can have a rest. Alright. I will be right back. get my place again. What do you think of all that? Greypaw mewed in a low voice. Ravenpaw bounded over before Firepaw could reply. What's going to happen now? He wailed. His fur fluffed up in alarm and his eyes wider than ever. Firepaw didn't answer. The elders of the ThunderClan were gathering nearby, and he was straining to hear what they were saying. That must be Yellowfang he was talking about, growled Small-Ear. Well, she did snap at Goldenflower's youngest kit the other day, murmured Speckletail darkly. She was the old nursery queen, and fiercely protective of all the kids. And we've left her behind, the camp virtually unguarded, wailed One Eye, who for once seemed to be having no trouble hearing everything. I tried to tell you she was a danger to us, hissed Darkstripe. Bluestar has to listen to reason now, and get rid of her before she harms any of our young. Tigerclaw strode up to the group. You must return to camp at once and deal with this rogue, he yelled. Firepaw didn't stop to hear more. His mind was spinning. Loyal as he was to his clan, they couldn't believe that Yellowfang would be a danger to kids. Frightened for the old she-cat, burning with questions only she could answer, he raced away from Greypaw and Ravenpaw without a word. He charged up the hillside and pelted through the forest. Had he been mistaken about Yellowfang? If he warned her about the danger she was in, would he be risking his own position in ThunderClan? Whatever trouble he got himself into, he had to find out the truth from her before the other cats got back to camp. That is the end of chapter 12. We're now in chapter 13. Firepaw reached the edge of the ravine and looked down at the camp. He was panting and his paws were slippery with dew. He sniffed the air. He was alone. There was still some time to speak to Yellowfang before the others returned from the gathering. Silently, he jumped down the rocky slope and slipped through the gorse tunnel unnoticed. The camp was still and quiet, apart from the muted snuffles of sleeping cats. Firepaw quickly crept around the edge of the clearing to Yellowfang's nest. Old Medicine Cat was curled on top of her mossy bedding. Yellowfang, he hissed urgently. Yellowfang, wake up. It's important. Two orange eyes opened and glinted in the moonlight. I wasn't sleeping, meowed Yellowfang quietly. She sounded calm and alert. Came straight from the gathering to me. That must mean you heard. She blinked slowly and looked away. So Broken Star kept his promise. What promise? Firepaw felt very confused. Yellowfang seemed to know more than he did about what was going on. ShadowClan's noble leader promised to drive me from every clan territory. Yellowfang replied dryly. What did he say about me? He warned us that our kits were in danger as long as we sheltered the ShadowClan rogue. He didn't say your name, but ThunderClan guessed who he was talking about. You must leave before the others get back. You are in danger. You mean they believed Broken Star? Yellowfang flattened her ears and swished her tail angrily. Yes, Firepaw meowed urgently. Darkstripe says you're dangerous. The other cats are scared of what you might do. Tigerclaw is planning to come back and... I don't know. I think you should go before they get here. In the distance, Firepaw could hear the yowls of angry cats. Yellowfang struggled stiffly to her paws. Firepaw gave her a nudge to help her up, his mind still spinning with questions. What did Broken Star mean when he warned us to keep a close eye on our kits? He couldn't stop himself from asking, would he really do something like that? Would I what? Would I harm our kits? Yellowfang flared her nostrils and looked steadily at him. Do you think so? Firepaw met her gaze without flinching. No, I don't believe you would ever harm a kid. But why would Brokenstar say such a thing? The noise of the cats was coming nearer, and with it the sense of aggression and anger. Yellowfang looked wildly from side to side. Go, Firepaw urged. Her safety was more important than his curiosity. But Yellowfang remained where she was and stared at him. A calm look suddenly came into her wide eyes. Firepaw, you believe I'm innocent, and I'm grateful for that. If you believe me, then others might. But I know Bluestar will give me a fair hearing. I can't run forever. I'm too old. I shall stay here and face whatever your clan decides for me. She sighed and sank down to her bony haunches. But what about Tigerclaw? What if he is headstrong, and he knows the power he has over the other clan cats. They are in awe of him, but even he will obey Bluestar. Wrestling in the undergrowth, beyond the camp boundary, told Firepaw that the cats were almost at the entrance. Go away, Firepaw, hissed Yellowfang, baring her blackened teeth at him. Don't make trouble for yourself by being seen with me now. There's nothing you can do for me. Have faith in your leader and let her decide. Oh my god, hi. Thank you for the raid. Welcome, welcome in. I was not expecting to be raided. I am not going to lie. But, thank you for raiding, and I hope your stream was alright. I am Nabisiki, the Kitsune Gamer. We are currently reading Warriors Into the Wild, book ASMR. Yeah. We are currently on, I think it's chapter 13, and I'm reading up to chapter 15 today. And if you know what the Warriors Into the Wild is, it is a book about cats and their clans. It is the first book of the entire series. Thank you for the follows. Damn. Hold up. Can I do a shout out, I wonder? Let me see if it's working. Sometimes it doesn't like to work for me. Oh, and your name even says Kitsune. Hey, yo. That is that is great. As you can tell, I'm also a fox, aka Kitsune. This is the female fox form. Here you go, have a nice shout out. Favorite childhood book series you had to raid? Hey yo. So I'm also taking a vote on how everyone's currently enjoying the book ASMR in my Discord. So if you end up liking it, feel free to join my Discord and vote in the polls. And I may continue this series because I have every single book and every single series of the entirety, like all of it, all the Warriors books. Foxy, yeah. Reading it on and off a chat. You're on chapter 4. I've been reading like 5 chapters every Friday. So I started, I think 2 weeks ago. Physical books? Ooh, yeah, I'm this right here. It's the physical book. That's exactly what I'm on right now. I'm reading from the physical copies of the book. Yeah. If you need to raid and run and do some self-care, don't mind me, go ahead. Wish your parents been solemn. So when I came across this series, it was back when I was in high school, and I was pretty much a loner, so I looked for books to read in the library, and this was one of the series I came across. It was this one It was also Vampirites, and then there was also, of course, manga. The first manga I ever read was Ranma One Half. And then the first animes I have ever watched, which were on Adult Swim, I would stay up to watch, were Inuyasha and Bleach. I have since then watched over 2,000 different animes and have read many different mangas. Join Discord, lovely to meet fellow fox who loves Worika. Yes. I have been told that this series is quote unquote the entryway to furrydom. I don't know why they say that, but it makes me laugh kind of because I'm like, but I've read this. I'm not technically a furry, I just like foxes. Also, I am a cat owner, so I have to love on the fur baby a bit. I actually did this, so this was a goal from a while back on my donathon for me paying some vet bills. We achieved this goal. We didn't complete the entire thing of my goals, but we completed up to here. So I've been doing this ASMR because it was something that we decided to do from the donathon. Favorite Bleach character? Kenpachi? I mean, like before his voice change though. His voice change was so bad in the anime. Like you can't even believe his voice went from like strong to like super squeaky. Fox model caught my eye and where to catch, but yes. I have the entire series and like all these sub-series. I had asked for it for like a Christmas present last year and I got all of them and I'm like, I'm going to use this. But if you join the Discord, again, you can vote in the poll of how much you're enjoying the current ASMR for the book series. Caught up to the most recent books. I have not. I had originally only got to read the first 3 books because that is all my high school had. So I have the entire series now. So technically I could learn about like everything that's happening past book 3 if we decide to continue with this book ASMR of the entire series. And that's kind of what the poll is for, to see if I should continue after this book. I know that there are some die-hard fans for this series, and like my god, they will talk all about it. You know that there's actually even some Roblox servers simply for just warrior cats? And I've seen them, like they show up on my page sometimes. Maybe? Yeah, no problem. I hope you have a good night and get some good rest. And thank you for dropping by and for the raid. Everyone else, thank you for all the follows. Alright, where was I think I was about to turn the page. There's nothing you can do for me. Have faith in your leader and let her decide what happens to me. Firepaw realized Yellowfang had made up her mind. He touched his nose to her patchy fur, then crept silently away into the shadows to watch. Through the gorse came the cats, Bluestar first, accompanied by Lionheart. Frostfur and Willowpelt were right behind them. Frostfur raced away from the troop immediately and ran towards the nursery, the fur on her tail bristling in alarm. Tigerclaw and Darkstripe strode into the clearing, shoulder to shoulder, looking grim. The others followed behind, with Ravenpaw and Greypaw at the rear. As soon as he saw his friends, Firepaw trotted out to join them. "You went to warn Yellowfang, didn't you?" whispered Greypaw when Firepaw reached his side. "Yes, I did," Firepaw admitted, "but she won't leave. She trusts Bluestar to treat her fairly. Did anyone miss me?" "Only us," replied Ravenpaw. Around the camp, The cats who had stayed behind began to wake up. They must have scented the aggression and heard the tension in the voices of the returning cats. For they all came running into the clearing, the tails held high. "What has happened?" called a tabby warrior named Running Wind. "Broken Star has demanded hunting rights for Shadow Clan in our territory," replied Longtail loudly enough for all cats to hear. "And he warned us about a rogue cat who will harm our kids," added Willowpelt. "It must be Yellowfang." Meows of anger and distress rose from the crowd. "Silence," ordered Bluestar, leaping on the high rock. Instinctively, the cat settled in front of her. A loud screech made every cat turn its head towards the fallen tree where the elders slept. Tiger Claw and Dark Stripe were dragging Yellowfang roughly from her nest. She shrieked furiously as they hauled her into the clearing and dumped her in front of the high rock. Firepaw felt every muscle in his body tense. Without thinking, he dropped into a low crouch, ready to spring at Yellowfang's persecutors. "Wait," Firepaw growled Graypaw in his ear. "Let Bluestar deal with this." "What is going on?" demanded Bluestar, jumping down from the high rock, glaring at her warriors. "I gave no order to attack our prisoner." Tiger Claw and Dark Stripe instantly let go of Yellowfang, who crouched in the dust, hissing and spitting. Frostfur appeared from the nursery and pushed her way to the front of the clan. "Got back in time," she meowed with a gasp. "The kids are safe." "Of course they are," snapped Bluestar. Frostfur seemed taken aback. "But you are going to throw Yellowfang out, aren't you?" she meowed, her blue eyes wide. "Throw her out," spat Dark Stripe, unleashing his claws. "We should kill her now." Bluestar fixed her piercing blue eyes on Dark Stripe's angry face. "And what has she done?" she asked with an icy calm. Firepaw held his breath. "You're at the gathering," Broken Star said Dark Stripe began. Broken Star said only that there is a rogue somewhere in the woods, meowed Bluestar, her voice menacingly quiet. It did not mention Yellowfang by name. "The kids are safe. For as long as she is in my clan, Yellowfang will not be harmed in any way." Bluestar's words were met with silence. Firepaw heaved a sigh of relief. Yellowfang looked up at Bluestar and narrowed her eyes respectfully. "I will leave now, if you wish it, Bluestar." "There is no need," Bluestar replied. "You have done nothing wrong. You will be safe here." The ThunderClan leader lifted her gaze to the crowd of cats that surrounded Yellowfang and meowed. "It is time we discuss the real threat to our clan. Broken Star, we have already begun to prepare an attack from the Shadow Clan." Bluestar began, "We'll carry on with those preparations and patrol our borders more frequently. Wind Clan has gone. River Clan has given hunting rights to Shadow Clan warriors. Thunder Clan stands alone against Broken Star." A murmur of defiance rippled through the cats, and Firepaw felt his fur prickle with anticipation. "Then we're not going to agree to Broken Star's demands," meowed Tiger Claw. "Clans have never shared hunting rights before," Bluestar answered. "They have always managed to support themselves in their own territories. There's no reason why this should change." Tiger Claw nodded approvingly. But can we defend ourselves against the Shadow Clan attack?" asked Small Ear's tremulous voice. "Wind Clan didn't manage it. River Clan won't even try." Bluestar met his old eyes with her steady gaze. "We must try. We'll not give up our territory without a fight." All around the clearing, Firepaw saw the cats nodding in agreement. "I shall travel to the Moonstone tomorrow," Bluestar announced. The warriors of StarClan will give me the strength I need to lead ThunderClan through this dark time. We must all get some rest. We have a lot to do when daylight comes. I wish to talk with Lionheart now." Without another word, she turned and strode towards her den. Firepaw noticed the look of wonder that had entered the eyes of some of the cats when Bluestar mentioned the Moonstone. Now the clan cats hurriedly gathered in groups, meowing in hushed voices full of excitement. "What's the Moonstone?" Firepaw asked Graypaw. "It's a rock deep underground that shines in the dark," whispered Graypaw. His voice was hoarse with awe. All clan leaders have to spend one night at the Moonstone when they are first chosen. There, the spirits of StarClan share with them. Share what with them? Graypaw frowned. "I don't know," he admitted. "I know only that the new leaders have to sleep near the stone, and as they sleep, they have special dreams. After that, they have a gift of 9 lives, and take the name Star." Firepaw watched Yellowfang limp back to her shadowy nest. It looked like Tiger Claw's rough treatment had aggravated her old injury. As he trotted back to the apprentice's den, Firepaw decided to ask Spotted Leaf for more poppy seeds in the morning. "So what happened?" mewed Dustpaw eagerly, popping his head out of the den. He seemed to have forgotten how much he had resented the new apprentice in his eagerness to hear him about the gathering. "It's like Longtail said. Broken Star demanded hunting rights," Graypaw began. Sandpaw and Dustpaw sat and listened, but Firepaw was watching the camp. He could see the silhouettes of Bluestar and Lionheart sitting close together outside her den, talking urgently. Then he noticed the small shape of Ravenpaw at the entrance of the warrior's den. Tiger Claw stood beside him. Firepaw saw Ravenpaw's ears flatten as the young cat flinched away from Tiger Claw's fierce words. The dark warrior loomed over him, twice his size, his eyes and teeth flashing in the moonlight. What was he saying to Ravenpaw? Firepaw was just about to creep near and listen when Ravenpaw backed away, turned, and ran across the clearing. Firepaw greeted Ravenpaw as he reached the apprentice's den, but Ravenpaw hardly seemed to notice him. Instead, he pushed his way inside the den without a word. Firepaw got up to follow him when he saw Lionheart approaching. "Well," meowed the ThunderClan deputy, striding up to the apprentices. "It seems that Firepaw, Graypaw, and Ravenpaw are about to reach another important stage in their training." "What's that?" mewed Graypaw, looking excited. "Bluestar wishes you 3 to accompany her on her journey to the Moonstone." Lionheart didn't miss the look of disappointment on the faces of Dustpaw and Sandpaw, because he added, "Don't worry, you two. You make the journey soon enough. For now, ThunderClan needs your strength and skill at the camp. I will remain here also." There's going to be an ad in 3 minutes. If you haven't already, please make sure to lower your volume so you don't get yourself spooked. Ads are very loud. Once the ads start, I will also take a short break. Thank you. Firepaw looked past Lionheart to his leader. She was moving from one group of warriors to another, meowing instructions to each. Why had she chose him for this journey, he wondered. "She wants you to rest now," Lionheart continued. "But first go to Spotted Leaf and collect the herbs you'll need on your expedition. It's a long way. You need something to give you strength and quell your appetite. There will be little time for catching prey. Graypaw nodded, and Firepaw dragged his gaze away from Bluestar and nodded too. "Where's Ravenpaw?" asked Lionheart. "He's in his nest already," replied Firepaw. "Good. Leave him to sleep. You can fetch herbs for him," meowed Lionheart. "Rest well. You leave at dawn." He flicked his tail and walked back to Bluestar's den. "Well then," mewed Sandpaw, "better go and see Spotted Leaf." Firepaw listened for a sourness in her voice, but there was none. There was no time for jealousy now. All the cats in the clan seemed to be united against the threat from ShadowClan. Firepaw and Graypaw walked quickly towards Spotted Leaf's den. The fern tunnel was dark. Not even the full moon penetrated its thick covering. Spotted Leaf seemed to be expecting them as they emerged into her moonlit clearing. "You have come for some traveling herbs," she meowed. "Yes, please," Firepaw answered. "And I think Yellowfang needs more poppy seeds." She seemed to be feeling her wounds. "I'll take her some after you have gone, and your traveling herbs are ready." Spotted Leaf indicated a pile of carefully made leaf wraps, enough for the three of you. The dark green herb will stop your hunger pangs during the journey. The other will give you strength. Eat them both just before you leave. They're not as good as fresh prey, but the taste won't last long. Alright, you guys. Now that we are in the ads, I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break. I'll be right back. made sure to stretch. Let's go ahead and get back to reading. Thanks, Spotted Leaf, mewed Firepaw. He leaned down and picked up one of the parcels. As he bent his head, Spotted Leaf stretched over and gently rubbed his cheek with her nose. Firepaw breathed in her scent, warm scent, and purred his thanks. Graypaw picked up with the other two, and the friends turned and headed back through the tunnel. Good luck, Spotted Leaf called after them. Travel safely. They arrived at the entrance to their den and dropped the bundles. Well, I just hope these herbs don't taste too revolting, muttered Graypaw. It must be a long way to the Moonstone. We've never been given herbs before. Do you know where it is? Firepaw asked. Beyond clan territory, at a place called High Stones. It lies deep underground, in a cave we call the Mother Mouth. Have you ever been there before? Firepaw was impressed that Graypaw knew so much about this mysterious place. No, but all apprentices have to make the journey there before they become warriors. The thought of becoming a warrior made Firepaw's eyes gleam with excitement, and he couldn't help standing a little taller. Don't get your hopes up. We still have to finish our training, Graypaw warned, as if reading his thoughts. Firepaw looked up through the canopy of leaves at the stars glittering in the black sky above. Moonhigh had passed. We should get some sleep, he mewed, but he couldn't imagine being able to sleep. The thought of tomorrow's adventure spinning through his mind. Attending the gathering, the journey to the Moonstone. How far away his kitty pet life seemed now. That is the end of chapter 13. And now we move on to chapter 14. The cold air chilled Firepaw's bones as blackness wrapped itself around him. He could hear nothing, and his nostrils were filled with the musty scent of damp earth. Out of nowhere, a brilliant ball of light flared in front of him. Firepaw ducked his head, screwing up his eyes against the glare. The light shone, dazzling coldly like a star. Then it blinked out, disappearing quickly as it had come. The darkness fell away, and Firepaw found himself in the forest. He felt comforted by the familiar smells of the woods. He breathed in the moist green scents, and calmness flowed through his body. Without warning, a dreadful noise burst from the trees. Firepaw's fur bristled. It was the screeching of terrified cats racing out from the bushes up ahead. Firepaw recognized their ThunderClan pelts as they fled past him. He stood rooted to the spot, unable to move. Then came great cats, huge dark warriors, their eyes glittering cruelly. They thundered toward him, pounding the earth with massive paws. Their claws unsheathed, and out of the shadows, Firepaw heard a high, desperate cry filled with grief and rage. Graypaw. Firepaw woke, horrified. His dream vanished, leaving his ears ringing and his fur standing on end. As he opened his eyes, he saw the face of Tigerclaw peering into the den. Firepaw leaped to his feet, instantly alert. Something wrong? Firepaw asked Tigerclaw. Just a dream, Firepaw mumbled. Tigerclaw gave him a curious look, then growled. Wake the others, we leave shortly. Outside the den, the sky glowed with a new dawn, and dew sparkled on the ferns. It'd be a warm day once the sun was up, but the early morning dampness reminded Firepaw that time of leaf fall was not far off. Firepaw and Graypaw and Ravenpaw quickly gulped down the herbs that Spotted Leaf had given them. Tiger Claw and Blue Star sat watching them, ready to leave. The rest of the camp was still asleep. Ugh, complained Grey Paw. I knew they'd be bitter. Why couldn't we eat a fat, juicy mouse instead? These herbs will keep your hunger at bay longer, answered Blue Star, and they will make you strong. We have a long journey ahead of us. Have you eaten yours already? Firepaw asked. I cannot eat if I'm going to share dreams with the Star Clans at the Moonstone tonight, replied Blue Star. Firepaw felt his paws tingle when he heard these words. He was itching to begin the journey. With the dawn's light and the familiar voices, the terror of his dream had left him. All that remained was the memory of the brilliant light, and Blue Star's words sent a renewed thrill of excitement through him. The 5 cats made their way through the gorse tunnel and out of the camp. Lionheart was just returning with a patrol. Safe journey, he meowed. Blue Star nodded. I know I can trust you to keep the camp safe, she answered. Lionheart looked at Grey Paw and dipped his head. Remember, he meowed, you are almost a warrior. Don't forget what I have taught you. Grey Paw looked back at Lionheart with affection. I will always remember, Lionheart, he mewed, nudging his head against the tabby's broad golden flank. They retraced their route to the 4 trees. This was the quickest way to pass into WindClan territory. High stones lay beyond. As Firepaw bounded down the side of the glade toward the great rock, you could still smell the scents of last night's gathering. He followed the others through grassy clearing and up the slope on the other side into WindClan's territory. The bushy slope became steeper as they climbed, and rockier until the cats had to leap from boulder to boulder up the side of the craggy cliff face. Firepaw paused when he reached the top. Ahead of them, the ground flattened out into a wide plateau. The wind blew in a steady gust that rippled the grass and bent the trees. The soil was stony, and the outcroppings of bare rock dotted the landscape here and there. The air still carried the scents of WindClan, but they were stale, much fresher, and more alarming, with the pungent markings of ShadowClan warriors. All clans are entitled to safe passage to the Moonstone, but ShadowClan seems to have no respect for the warrior code anymore, so be alert, warned Blue Star. We mustn't hunt outside our territory, though, or follow the warrior code, even if ShadowClan doesn't. They set off across the plateau as the sun rose into the sky, following the tracks through the heather. Firepaw had grown used to living under a canopy of trees. Without their shade, his flame-colored pelt felt heavy and hot, and his back seemed to burn. He was thankful for the steady breeze blowing from the forest behind. Suddenly, Tiger Claw stopped dead. Watch out, he hissed. I smell a ShadowClan patrol. Firepaws and the others lifted their noses, and sure enough, the scent of ShadowClan warriors traveled on the wind. They are upwind. They won't know we are here if we keep moving, meowed Blue Star. But we must hurry. If they move ahead, they'll detect us. It's not far to the edge of WindClan territory now. They moved on quickly, leaping over rocks, pushing their way through the sweet-smelling heather. Every few steps, Firepaw sniffed the air and glanced over his shoulder, on the lookout for the ShadowClan patrol. But gradually, the odor grew fainter and fainter. They must have turned back, he thought with relief. Finally, they reached the edge of the uplands. The landscape changed dramatically, shaped and altered beyond recognition by Two Legs.
White earth tracks crisscross green and golden meadows. Small woods dotted the land. The two lakes' nests were scattered here and there among the fields. In the distance, Firepaw saw a familiar wide gray path, and an acid tang that stung his throat drifted on the breeze. "Is that the Thunder Path?" he asked Graypaw. "Yes," replied Graypaw. "It runs from the Shadow Clan territory. Can you see the high stones behind it?" Firepaw looked at the distant horizon. The land rose sharply up to a point, jagged and barren. "Do we have to cross the Thunder Path then?" "Yup," mewed Graypaw. His voice was strong and confident, almost cheerful as he faced the difficult journey. "Come on," Bluestar meowed. She bounded forward. "We can be there by moonrise as long as we keep up the pace." Firepaw followed her with the others, down the hill, away from the bleak hunting grounds of the Wind Clan, and into the lush Two-Lake territory. Keeping near the hedges, the cats walked on. Once or twice, Firepaw could smell prey scent from the bushes, but Spotted Leaf's herbs had succeeded in taking the edge off his hunger. The sun was still hot on his back, even in the shadows of the hedgerows. They skirted a two-leg nest. It stood on a wide expanse of hard white stone, with smaller nests around the edges. Keeping low, the cats crept past the fence that surrounded the white stone. A sudden barrage of barking and snarling made them spin around. Dogs! Firepaw's heart missed a beat. He arched his back, fur bristling from nose to tail. Tiger Claw peered through the fence. "It's all right. They're tied up," he hissed. Firepaw looked at the two dogs scrabbling on the stone, barely 10 lengths away. They were nothing like the pampered pets that lived in the gardens of the two-leg place. These creatures stared at him with wild, killing eyes. They strained at their ties and reared up on their hind legs. They growled and barked, the lips drawn back to reveal huge teeth, until the shout of the unseen two-leg silenced them. The cats moved on. The sun was beginning to sink by the time they reached the Thunder Path. Bluestar signaled to them to stop and wait beneath a hedge, his eyes and throat stinging from the fumes. Firepaw watched as the great monsters flashed to and fro in front of him. "We'll go one at a time," meowed Tiger Claw. "Ravenpaw, you first." "No, Tiger Claw," Bluestar interrupted. "I shall go first. Don't forget, this will be the first time of crossing for the apprentices. Let them see how it is done." Firepaw stared at his leader as she padded to the edge of the Thunder Path and looked up and down. She waited calmly as one monster after another flew past her, ruffling her fur. Then, when the ear-splitting roar paused for a moment, she raced across to the other side. "Off you go, Ravenpaw. Now you've seen how it's done," meowed Tiger Claw. Firepaw saw Ravenpaw's eyes widen with fear. He knew just how his friend felt. He could still smell his own fear scent. The small black cat crept forward to the edge of the road. It was quiet, but Ravenpaw hesitated. "Go," hissed Tiger Claw from the hedge. Firepaw saw Ravenpaw's muscles tighten as he prepared to run. Then the ground began to tremble beneath his paws. The monster sped out of the distance and hurled past. The black cat shrank back for a moment, then pelted over to join Bluestar. A monster coming in the other direction threw up dust where his paws had just been a heartbeat before. Firepaw felt his fur shiver and he took a deep breath to calm himself. Great Paw was lucky. A long lull let him cross safely. Then it was Firepaw's turn. Go on then, growled Tiger Claw. Firepaw looked at Tiger Claw to the Thunder Path, and then walked out from beneath the hedge. He waited at the edge, as Bluestar had done. A monster was rushing towards him. Firepaw looked at the approaching monster after this one, he thought, and waited for it to pass. Suddenly, his heart lurched as he realized the monster had veered off the Thunder Path and was bumping along the grass. It was headed straight for him. A two-leg was cheering from an opening in its side. Firepaw leaped backwards, claws out, battered by the storm of wind from the two-leg monster as it roared past him only a whisker away. He crouched, trembling, in the dirt and stared as it swerved back onto the path and disappeared into the distance. Through the roaring of blood in his ears, Firepaw realized the Thunder Path was quiet again, and he raced across, running faster than he'd ever done in his life. I thought you were fresh kill, cried Greypaw, as Firepaw cannoned into him, almost knocking him over. Me too, Firepaw gasped. He was trying to stop shaking. He turned back to watch Tiger Claw dart over the path towards them. Two legs, he spat as he arrived at their side. Do you want to rest before we go on? Bluestar asked Firepaw. Firepaw looked up. The sun was low in the sky. No, he answered. I'm okay. But he'd leaped so frantically out of the monster's way that his claws felt frayed and tender. The cats carried on, with a Bluestar in the lead. The earth was darker on this side of the Thunder Path, and the grass felt coarser under Paw. As they approached the foot of high stones, grass gave way to bare, rocky soil, dotted with patches of heather. The land slopped up now. Towards the sky, craggy rocks topped the slope, blazing orange in the sun. Bluestar stopped once more. She chose a sun-warmed rock to sit upon. Flat and wide enough for all 5 cats to rest side by side. Look, she meowed, tilting her nose towards the dark slope before them. Mother mouth. Firepaw peered upwards. The glare of the setting sun blinded him, and the slope was engulfed in shadow. The cats waited in silence. Gradually, as the sun dropped down behind the high stones, Firepaw began to make out the cave entrance, a square black hole that yawned darkly beneath a stone archway. The way here into the moon is higher, meowed Bluestar. You should hunt if you are hungry and then get some rest. Firepaw was pleased to have a chance to find food. He was starving now. Greypaw clearly felt the same and leaped away into a clump of heather, following the prey scent that was thick in the air. Firepaw and Ravenpaw followed him. Tiger Claw set off in the opposite direction, but Bluestar remained where she was. She sat still and silent, gazing unblinkingly at Mother Mouth. The 3 apprentices gathered plenty of fresh kill. With Tiger Claw, they crouched on the stony hillside and feasted. But in spite of their easy hunt, no cat said much. And the air still felt thick with tension and anticipation. Afterwards, the cats rested beside their leader until the warmth had seeped out of the rock on which they lay, and cold black shadows reached up on all sides. Only then did Bluestar call out, "Come, it's time."
was the end of chapter 14, and we are on the final chapter for tonight, which is chapter 15. Once this chapter is over, I will be ending stream and possibly raiding out. If you would like me to raid into anyone, feel free to redeem the raid point. And you can go ahead and tell me who you'd like me to raid. Other than that, I might just choose someone random. Chapter 15. Bluestar stood and began to pad towards Mothermouth. Tigerclaw walked beside her, matching her stride step for step. "Come on, Ravenpaw," called Greypaw. Ravenpaw was still sitting on the rock, staring up at the rocks. At Greypaw's mew, he stood up and began to follow slowly. Firepaw realized his friend had hardly said a word the whole journey. "Thank you for the follow." Is he just worried about ShadowClan, or is there something else troubling him? Firepaw wondered. It took the cats only a few moments to reach Mothermouth. Firepaw stood on the threshold and peered inside. Thank you for checking in as well. The blackness beyond and the stone archway was darker than the cloudiest night. Firepaw narrowed his eyes, trying to see where the tunnel led, but he couldn't see a thing. Beside him, Greypaw and Ravenpaw craned their heads nervously around the entrance. Even Tigerclaw seemed unsettled by the black hole ahead of them. "How will we find our way in such darkness?" he asked. "I would know the way," answered Bluestar. "Just follow my scent." Ravenpaw and Greypaw, you will remain on guard outside. Firepaw, you accompany me and Tigerclaw to the Moonstone. Firepaw felt a thrill jolt through him. What an honor! Firepaw glanced sideways at Tigerclaw. The warrior sat with his chin boldly raised, but Firepaw could detect a subtle fear sense coming from him. It grew stronger as Bluestar stepped forward into the blackness. Tigerclaw shook his mighty head and padded after Bluestar. With a brief nod to the other princesses, Firepaw followed. Inside the cave, his eyes still detected nothing. The complete and utter blackness felt strange. But he was surprised to find that he wasn't frightened. His eagerness to discover what lay ahead was stronger. The cold, damp air reached through his thick fur into his bones, stiffening his muscles. Even the coldest nights did not hold the same chill as the air here. This ground has never known the warmth of the sun, thought Firepaw, feeling the rock smooth like ice beneath his paws. Freezing air filled his lungs with each breath until he felt lightheaded. He followed Bluestar and Tigerclaw through the darkness, judging his way by the scent and feel alone. They were walking along a tunnel that sloped down and down, winding first one way, then the other. Firepaw's whiskers brushed the side of the cave, telling him where to walk and where to turn. There's going to be an ad in 2.5 minutes. If you haven't already, please make sure to lower the volume so you don't get spooked. I will take a short break so that I can stretch and all that, and let my tongue rest for a minute or two, and then we'll continue on. His nose told him that Bluestar and Tigerclaw were only a tail length ahead of him. On and on they went. How far have we come? Firepaw wondered. Oh, thank you for the hydrant.
and he felt a tingle in his whiskers. The air in his nostrils seemed fresher than before. He sniffed again, relieved to smell the familiar world above. 1010 streamer for warning about the ads blaring your ears out, yes. Because I don't know why, but they never like tried to make it like similar to the strength of the volume that you are currently listening to. They just love to like be like, no, we're gonna just put it at maximum volume that we wanted for this ad. It's like they expect you to be blasting everything at full strength all the time and like ruining your eardrums. It's almost like they make it for older people, you know, like damaged eardrums. It's kind of funny. But yeah, no problem. He sniffed again, relieved to smell the familiar world above. He could smell peat and prey, and the scent of heather. There must be a hole somewhere in the roof of the tunnel. Where are we? He mewed into the darkness. You have entered the cavern of the Moonstone, came Bluestar's soft reply. Wait here, you will be moon high soon. I don't want to get too much into that during the ad, so I will wait for that and I will go on a quick break and I will stretch. Thank you. Oh. Let me type the BRB. There we go. Sticky.
Thank you guys for being patient. Also looks like we're gonna get out of the ad break in a minute. Well, actually just 3 seconds. Welcome back from the ads. I just got back to, I also cleaned my face. You're not bapping me. Go away, Husky. I'm gonna bite you. And thank you. Welcome back to you as well. Let's see if we can get through the rest of this chapter before another ad hits. Headed to bed anyway. Sleep well, Husky. Have a good night. We have entered the cavern of the Moonstone, came Bluestar's soft reply. Wait here, we'll be moon high soon. Firepaw folded his hind legs under him on the chilly stone floor and waited. He could hear the steady breathing of Bluestar and the more rapid, fear-scented panting of Tiger Claw. Yes, thank you. I'll make sure to have a nice, fun stream. Suddenly, in a flash, more blinding than the setting sun, the cave was lit up. Firepaw's eyes were wide open at the blackness of the tunnel. He closed them quickly against the cold white light, and slowly he opened them into tiny slits and peered ahead. He saw a gleaming rock, which glittered as if it were made from countless dewdrops. The Moonstone, Firepaw looked around. In the cold light reflected from the stone, he could make out the shadowy edges of a high-roofed cavern. The Moonstone rose up from the middle of the floor, 3 tail lengths high. Bluestar was staring upwards, her fur bleached white in the glow of the Moonstone. Even Tiger Claw's pelt shone silver. Firepaw followed Bluestar's gaze. High in the roof was an opening that revealed a narrow triangle of the night sky. The moon was casting a beam of light through the hole, down to the Moonstone, making it sparkle like a star. Beside him, Firepaw smelled Tiger Claw's pure scent growing until it became overpowering. Firepaw felt startled. Could the warrior see something else here? Something dangerous? He saw a flash of movement, felt fur rush past him, and heard the fleeing paw steps of Tiger Claw racing back to the entrance. Firepaw, Bluestar's voice was quiet and calm. I'm still here, he answered nervously. What had frightened Tiger Claw? Bluestar. Firepaw mewed again when she didn't answer. His heart was beating fast, making the blood roar in his ears. It is all right, young warrior. Don't be afraid, Bluestar murmured. Her calm voice settled him a little. I think Tiger Claw was surprised by the power of the Moonstone. In the world above, Tiger Claw is a fearless and mighty warrior. But down here, where the spirits of StarClan speak, the cat needs a different kind of strength. What do you feel, Firepaw? Firepaw sniffed the air deeply and forced his body to relax. Only my own curiosity, he admitted. That is good, Bluestar replied. Firepaw looked back at the Moonstone. His eyes had got used to its light, and he is no longer dazzled. Instead, it soothed him. With a twitch of his tail, he remembered his dream. It was a brilliant ball of light he had seen. Spellbound, Firepaw watched as Bluestar padded up to the stone and lay down beside it. She reached her head forward and touched the Moonstone with her nose. Her blue eyes sparkled with its reflection for a moment before she closed them. Now she rested her head on her paws, her eyelids flickering and her paws twitching occasionally. Was she sleeping?
Then Firepaw remembered Greypaw's words. New leaders have to sleep near the stone, and as they sleep, they have special dreams. He waited. The chill was not so intense here, but still he found himself shivering. He had no idea how much time had passed, but suddenly the rock stopped glowing. The cavern was plunged into darkness once more. Firepaw looked up to the opening in the roof of the cavern. The moon had passed on, out of sight. All that remained were tiny stars shimmering in blackness. Firepaw could just make out the pale shape of his leader lying beside the moonstone. He wanted to call out her name, but did not dare break the silence. After more endless moments, she spoke to him. "Firepaw, are you still there?" Her voice sounded remote and agitated. "Yes, Bluestar." Firepaw heard Bluestar's paw steps approaching. "Hurry," she hissed. He felt her fur brush past him. He must return to camp. Firepaw raced after her, astonished by the speed which she rushed through the blackness. He followed her scent blindly, up and up the stone tunnel, until she led him safely back to the outside world. Tigerclaw was waiting at the opening beside Greypaw and Ravenpaw as Bluestar and Firepaw climbed out of the cave. His expression was cold and his fur was slightly ruffled, but he sat motionless and dignified. "Tigerclaw," Bluestar greeted him, but did not mention the warrior cat's flight from the depths. Tigerclaw relaxed a little. "What did you learn?" "We must return to the camp immediately." Bluestar meowed briefly. Firepaw saw a look of desperation in his leader's eyes. Now the horror of his dream forced its way back into memory. The fleeing cats, the great dark warriors, the ear-splitting wail of distress. Firepaw tried to ignore the cold fear that gripped his muscles, and followed Bluestar as she and the others raced down the dark slope away from Mother Mouth. Was his nightmare vision about to come true? That is the end of chapter 15. And I will be ending stream after this, so I will try to find someone to raid. Let's see if I have anyone I'm following doing ASMR. Other than that, if you have someone to recommend, you can feel free. As long as they're streaming right now anyway. Let's see. There's someone playing Deltarune. Someone I haven't been to in a while, maybe. How about we can go to Minari? Alright, you guys. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the chapter 11 through 15 for the Warrior Book ASMR. If you would like to join the Discord, you can also vote on a poll 1 through 10 of how much you're enjoying it. Depending on the results, I may continue the entire series. I am also posting the VODs from the ASMR for these books onto YouTube. So if you want to look it up, you can just look it up by looking my name or Warriors. Other than that, I hope you guys had a lovely night, and I am going to catch you guys later. Nabisuki out.